Going to talk about the big election and the cliff. You know, the fiscal cliff's coming. I've got Bob Weiner, national Democratic strategist and national columnist, former Clinton White House spokesman. Got him on the line. Bob, thanks for taking time for me.
It's great to be back with you, Rick, and boy, do you get the issues right.
The fiscal cliff. Oh, my God, the sky is falling. The end of the world. It's over.
We have to use, Bush said, I won my capital, and now I'm going to use it. I hope that Obama uses his capital, Rick, to make sure that the fiscal cliff doesn't destroy seniors through cuts in Medicare and Social Security, which if they do that, see, I'm concerned on that.
Me too.
If they do that, then they're really adding poverty to America. They're putting seniors who are now quite well off because of Social Security, and it stops 75% of seniors from going into poverty and garbage cans for their food. That's the reality of what it did. It puts them back there, and we'll have to pay that way. And Medicare stops 25% of the seniors from poverty through their health care costs. So what we don't pay on one end, we'd pay at the other, and meanwhile, we take away the life of dignity for our seniors. And it's an excuse, because Social Security seniors have paid into for it's solvent for 30 years. Medicare now with Obamacare is solvent for the next 10 years, and it's because of premiums that people have paid into it that the Republicans are still trying. They forgot they lost the election, but they're going to try to take away the benefits from seniors.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of this, and you said they're living pretty well. I think I would disagree a little bit with that. They haven't been harmed as much as everybody else has.
I agree.
But my grandmother's not living high off the hog. She's not living the gilded life, if you will. She's getting by, and she's not eating cat food. But, she's not living the life that if you listen to many Republicans, you think, wow, they're wonderful. Wow, they're just living high off the hog. That's not the case.
You're absolutely right. It's a subsistence living that Social Security gives you. It's a safety net. You're exactly right.
Which is
and
why
to take that away, Rick, is outrageous to not do tax increases to the Clinton levels for the top 2%, which is what they're talking about. They're paying for it with poor seniors and students and housing and health care. They're trying to do it every which way, but the two ways that really matter, which is the disproportionate tax breaks for the rich and the wars, the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned about in the 50s,
right,
is still with us when President Obama recently said we spend more in the military than the next 10 countries combined. And so to not pull that funding away and to use it for our infrastructure, which he's trying to do, he wants to take half the reduction of the wars and use that funding for infrastructure. The Republicans are going to try to stop it and call stimulus a dirty word, and it's outrageous that we can't even do nation building in our own country.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But if you listen to Romney and what I was saying during the election, if you listen to Romney was talking about huge stimulus spending. Every time he turned, although he didn't use the dreaded S word, as you pointed out, he talked about it in terms of we need to build boats for our military. We need to spend, what was it, $5 trillion? That's a huge stimulus.
Well, $2 trillion more for the military is what he said.
Okay.
$2 trillion more, $5 trillion in tax cuts when you add up his 20% across the board that he wants to let everybody pay. It becomes this huge that's what it adds up to. And then he, of course, never would say, and now Boehner's trying to say we're going to do it the Romney way as though they won the election.
Yeah.
He would never say where they're going to get the reforms from through the loopholes. Never would say it. And I want to see how we're going to reform and take away the health benefit. We're going to take away the housing benefit. We're going to take away your pension benefits. We're going to take away your education, your charities. Which thing that helps America are you going to take away and give away so that you can pay for these tax breaks for the rich?
Yeah, I'm with you. But the reason I brought up the military spending, what I call a stimulus, is had we taken that kind of money, $2 trillion, as you pointed out, back in 2009, and really had a true stimulus. Now the Recovery Act was helpful. I don't think it was near enough. I think we needed a much chunkier, much bigger shot in the arm, much bigger jolt, if you will.
You're absolutely right, and we would have had it without the Republican obstructionism, Rick. Remember the Jobs for All Act that the Republicans kept blocking? The jobs for first offenders and firefighters and police and all of that, as well as
you mean the heroes?
Yeah, and the Republicans kept blocking it. It was 1 million jobs and a point off our unemployment rate. So when they said that the unemployment rate's too high, it's because they wouldn't let the president's bill go through. I'm hoping, when I said at the beginning of the show that he's got to use his capital, that's what I mean. that bill should go through.
The question is, and I think that's the $1 million question, will this guy do it, though? I mean, he has not shown me the most steely spine, if you will.
Well, he's gotten better and better. At least, Rick, remember in the beginning, we got memories here. He said he didn't want any of the Bush tax breaks, but he did it for the Republicans because he had to stop that then fiscal cliff. So he compromised and he continued the Bush tax breaks and the rich ones. Now his compromise, his position was always to return to the Clinton rates overall. Now it's just for the bottom for the 98% of all Americans, except for the top 2%. I hope the heck he at least sticks with that much.
Yeah,
that's $1 trillion of the $5 trillion that we'll get back from that we're losing. We're losing $4 trillion because of the Bush tax breaks. That's revenue that we do not have for the United States of America.
Yeah, what bothers me is we keep talking about we need to go return to the Clinton tax code, which I'm not against. Why aren't we talking about going back to the good socialist president Dwight David Eisenhower's tax code? Why aren't we talking about that? Because the economy did fairly well when, and there's study after study that shows that higher tax rates with more incentives leads to a better economy.
Did you see the Library of Congress study that the Republicans refused to allow, but Rachel Maddow and everybody got it anyway, and I've got a copy of it. I immediately downloaded it. That showed that cutting taxes does not create jobs. And in fact, what creates jobs is jobs programs. And the Republicans said, we don't want that study. It destroys what we're saying. Well, yeah, that's called facts.
Yeah, well, here again, I mean, you look at David Stockman, who said, the Republicans have this tax cut fetish. And it hasn't helped us. It hasn't led to more growth. And what I see coming, and maybe you'll have a better view on this than I do, I look at us having the same conversation to redo the tax reform bill of 1986, which I got to be honest was a failure. It didn't lead to more economic growth. It didn't lead to more jobs.
You're talking about Reagan stuff.
Of course. Well,
but that led to a tripling of the deficit.
Right, but here's the thing. They
point
to that, Bob.
Say that.
But here they point to that, Bob, and they say, wow, you see, it was bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans coming together, on a really bad idea.
Right, I agree. And by the way, you're one of the few people that I think would appreciate it. I read it cover to cover and circled it. And I don't read many books. I'm glued to all the TV, the cables, and the newspapers and all of that. But I read Clinton's Back to Work. It is a phenomenal book. It's about 200 pages, and it's policy, and it points out the 30 years that we've had of opposition to government intervention that has cost us and caused the income separation, caused the joblessness. It's caused the reduction in student, how we've gone to 17th in students and how we're 40th in healthcare and all of that kind of thing. If you read Clinton's book Back to Work, it is a phenomenal policy analysis. That guy is so good. You were at the convention, right?
No, I didn't. We didn't make it.
Go.
No,
but Clinton's speech turned it around.
Yeah, we watched it here on TV.
Yeah.
Like other folks, like the poor folks that we are.
The secretary of explaining things.
Yeah, I mean we're not the investor class. We don't have that kind of revenue. But the thing here is you go back and you look through history.
There were travel lodges there, Rick, if you booked early enough.
Yeah, they were charging $400 a night if I was told right. That was a year and one night there. But you look at this and you look at some of the policy that we should have been pursuing, and I go back to the beginning of Obama's term when they passed Lilly Ledbetter. I would have rather seen them pass the Employee Free Choice Act. So you say, women, hey, you're not going to get screwed from the beginning with your paycheck.
Well, there's that, but the fact, just think of Romney to the end of time, and the gender gap survived. We had 11 or 12 points, I forget which. It was one of the. I got to look at the final numbers, but there was a huge gender gap, and it's because of all of his abortion crapola. But it was also because of his opposition. He refused to say that he supported equal pay for women.
Yeah. How much, really, as someone who's on the inside in all of this, how much of that contraception, the abortion stuff, do you think Romney was really into? Because I never thought that was his issue.
Trapped. He was trapped. He tried at the end to say he supports the exceptions, but he still would have been for overturning Roe v. Wade, which is a disaster to do. And he still would have. He never came out, against Murdoch. He actually did the ad for Murdoch. Mr. Rape is from God.
Yeah.
Fine that he came out against Aiken, who said legitimate rape doesn't cause kids.
The body shuts down.
Good God.
It secretes of something good in there, and it doesn't happen. And the first thing I'm thinking of, if that's the truth, then there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies who are going to want that secretion. But that unfortunately
It's unbelievable how you can have your head in the sand.
or you're just not paying attention. You ran a really bad campaign, and I'm looking at how bad, with all of the money that they had, $1 billion they ran between the two campaigns on TV ads, and $6.5 billion.
We fought fire with fire only because of Obama's Axelrod and all brilliance. But you know what? On women, unmarried women for Obama, exit poll 68-33. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense. It just was an outrageous set of policies that take away freedom and choice for women.
I guess he didn't open the binders.
The other thing, Rick, you said you wanted sort of an analysis of the campaign. I loved what somebody said, that the Obama campaign used a very sophisticated, non-secret government document for its major strategy, the census.
Yeah.
Latinos, women, youth, African Americans. This was the first election that did not have a majority of whites voting. It was a slight majority of everybody else. And the Republicans are so getting shafted by their own decision when they talk about, self-deportation and not giving women choice. And then, put everything else together that they did when Romney talked about real change. What? Tax breaks for the rich, drilling for oil, stop women's choice, oppose equal pay, self-deportation of immigrants, students borrow from your parents, stop getting health care so that you go bankrupt, and let's stop Wall Street reforms that will correct the crash in the first place. So, I mean, that's what he meant by real change, and people didn't buy it. This was an election where Romney would have been of the rich, by the rich, and for the rich. And I think that's how you had a segment on that right before I came on, and that's what it did him in with the American people. And I found fascinating the current charts that are now out there, the lines of the polls. It was not Sandy that stopped Romney's momentum. It was Obama's two debates after the disastrous first one.
Yeah.
And you look at he restored his majority. He lost it after the first debate. It was horrible. I did an op-ed that was the lead in the Washington Times on the debate debacle and how Obama has to come back stronger with forceful sound bites. But he did, and he won the next two debates. So Sandy actually didn't do a thing if you look at the flatlining of the daily tracking polls.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people who were on the inside knew Romney was going down. Just because of how bad a campaign, with all of that resource and all the money.
Yep.
She ran a horrible campaign, and now you see something came out today that their tracking went down about 4 o'clock. They were going to come out with this ingenious Project Orca, I think they called it, this ingenious way of tracking voters, and the whole thing crashed, and a whole bunch of stuff around it where you go, if this is how you were going to run our government, thank goodness you lost.
Yeah, it was. Very ineffective. And then they showed on the other side the precision targeting of voters by the Obama team. The model for elections to come as to how they did it, and they targeted in the states that mattered. The advertising from the beginning to paint Romney into a corner on Bain Capital, to point out that 25% of his companies went under. Is that what you want for America?
Yeah.
So to paint him into that corner. As a company flipper, not a job creator, and that our advertising worked.
Yeah, I mean,
of course, Romney did it to himself with the 47%, with the
that was dumb.
Corporations are people, with I'll bet you $10,000, with my car garage. I got a couple
subterranean,
all of that
subterranean car garage. Do you think it was a slap in the face by Bain Capital to close Sensata Technologies on the day before the election?
I didn't even know about that. What's going on with that?
How can you not know about Sensata Technologies?
Go ahead, Rick.
When you've got Bain Capital took over Sensata Technologies in Elmwood, Illinois.
Yeah.
170 workers lost their job the day before the election.
So they hit Illinois, which is Obama's state.
Well, they lost the jobs, crated up the company, crated up the machines, shipping them over to China.
How stupid is that?
They brought Chinese workers.
I did hear about the moving jobs to China at the end. I did hear about that.
This has been going on for months.
The name of the company was Sensata. Okay, fine.
It's been going on for months. The day before the election, they finally lay all these people off. So
that was news about Romney's old company moving jobs to China, and the irony of that.
I mean, do you think it's a slap in the face? They did it the day before the election so that those 170 people go to the polls, cast their ballot for Obama, and then go file for unemployment.
Well, I think it was absolutely indicative of Romney's kind of policies.
Yeah.
That's what it more struck me as.
Wow. Last question I got for you. This fiscal cliff, the crisis, the ticking bomb, the end of civilization as we know it. Where do you see this going in the lame duck, or is this going to be something we pick up next year?
Well, I got to give a speech at the London School of Economics on Tuesday on the economic impact of the election. The fiscal cliff is not going to be one of them. That's one of the great illusions and myths, and that's going to be toys played between the two parties until they both solve it, because neither wants to see the United, because they'll both get blamed. It'll be like, the Gingrich-Clinton thing on the shutdown of the government.
Right.
It isn't going to happen. That's what I'm going to say about that.
Okay, good. We will see what happens next year then. Bob, it's always great talking with you. I appreciate it. Would love to have you back come often and often.
Thank you. I will. Thanks for Insada, was it?
Sensata.
Insada. Okay.
Sensata.
Great, Rick. Talk to you.
There you go. Bob Weiner, national Democratic strategist, national columnist, former Clinton White House spokesperson. Quick break. Back after this. Stick around. You listen to The Rick Smith Show.